The topic of this presentation is ethics in systematic review. So, what are the ethical considerations when you start a systematic review? And ethical considerations in research are a set of principles that guide your research, designs, and practices. Scientists and researchers must always adhere to a certain code of conduct when collecting data from the people. The goals of human research often include understanding real-life phenomena, studying effective treatments, investigating behaviors, and improving lives in other ways. The importance of ethics is that it protects the rights of the research participants, it enhances the research validity, and it also maintains the scientific integrity of your project. For the research subjects, it ensures that the participation in these studies is voluntary, informed, and safe. Defying research ethics will also lower the credibility of your research because it's hard for others to others to trust your data if your methods are morally questionable. This was about research in general, but why do they matter in a systematic review? Systematic reviews are frequently read and cited in documents that influence educational policy and practice. Hence, ethical issues associated with what and how systematic reviews are produced and used have serious implications. It becomes imperative for systematic reviewers to reflexively engage with a variety of ethical issues associated with potential conflicts of interest and issues of voice and representation. Systematic reviews do not collect deeply personal, sensitive, or confidential information from the participants. They usually access publicly accessible documents as evidence and are required to seek an institutional ethics and are not required to seek an institutional ethics approval before commencing a systematic review. IRB reviews for ethical conduct of research do not typically include guidelines for systematic reviews either. What are the ethical considerations associated with identifying an appropriate purpose for a systematic review? Before accepting funding for conducting a systematic review, educational researchers must carefully reflect. In case of a sponsored systematic review, it is important to consider at the outset how potential ethical issues will be managed if the interest of funding agency conflicts with the interests of relatively less influential or represented groups. Systematic reviews funded by a single agency with a vested interest in the findings are particularly vulnerable to ethical dilemmas arising from a conflict of interest. Research communication is the way that you communicate research results can sometimes involve ethical issues such as good science communication is honest, reliable, and credible. It is best to make your results as transparent as possible. Research misconduct means making up or falsifying data, manipulating data analysis, or misinterpreting results in research reports. It is a form of academic fraud. These actions committed intentionally can have serious consequences. Research misconduct is not a simple mistake or a point of disagreement about data analysis. Research misconduct is a serious ethical issue because it can undermine the scientific integrity and institutional credibility. It leads to a waste of funding and resources that could have been used for alternative research. Like primary researchers, systematic reviewers should reflexively engage with a variety of ethical issues associated that potential conflicts of interest and issues of voice and representation. Systematic reviewers must pay careful attention to how perspectives of authors and research participants of original studies are represented in a way that makes the missing perspectives visible. Throughout the review process, reviewers must remain reflexive about how their own subjective positioning is influencing and being influenced by the review findings. Purposefully informed selective inclusivity should guide critical decisions in the review process. In communicating the insights gained through the review, they must ensure audience appropriate transparency to maximize the ethical impact of review findings. Thank you.